5 months ago, the art school's gate was more crowded than usual that afternoon, not with students, but with fans of Love Life, a short film about high school that had recently become incredibly popular. What made it special was that no famous stars were involved. Instead, the female lead was a final-year student at the school. When it aired, it became a phenomenon. That student's name was Lethai Tayatmai, a beautiful and easy-to-remember name. Back to the crowd, it was mostly composed of middle school students from the city. No one knew how they got my schedule. With only half an hour until school ended, they waited eagerly to see her and take photos together to post on Facebook with their friends. One could say my success was a complete surprise to herself. However, to the teachers at school, Mai's talent was undeniable. She just hadn't had the opportunity to fully showcase it. "Oh my God, it's Mai. Mai's coming out, everyone." The students cheered, creating a chaotic scene. Mai flinched, a fleeting look of worry crossing her face, but she quickly brushed it away. She walked out with a bright, full smile, interacting with the crowd. In stark contrast to this joyous scene, a pair of eyes in the corner of the schoolyard stared intently at Mai. It was none other than Han, Mai's classmate and biggest rival. Han had a significantly better starting point than Mai. Not only that, she was a familiar face in TV commercials. Her family background was also much more privileged than Mai's. Han was a city girl, with famous artists for parents. Because of all these advantages, Han couldn't stand being outshone, especially by a poor, country bumpkin like Mai. Han sneered, muttering to herself, "She clearly doesn't know her place. Just a little fame from an unknown film, and she thinks she's an A-list star." But Mai's popularity wasn't confined to the internet. More than a week later, she had the honor of standing on a television stage. The entertainment show Mai participated in garnered incredibly high ratings. Many newspapers even called her the new muse of the national cinema. It made sense, from her way of speaking, her acting talent, to supplementary skills like singing and dancing. Mai performed flawlessly, without a single blemish. Normally, after lunch, Han would cheerfully prepare to go shopping for expensive items or hang out with friends. But today, all that was ruined. Everywhere she looked online, she saw Mai's image. To make matters worse, her parents were watching the entertainment show featuring Mai, laughing and praising her profusely. Blood boiling, Han furiously hurled her phone at the wall, grumbling to herself, "What's so great about her? We'll see how long she can keep this up. I'll watch and see." A month passed, and Han's frustration hadn't lessened a bit because Mai's name was genuinely too hot. This also meant Han no longer held her sole dominant position in class. Instead, teachers, friends, and even boys were captivated by Mai. There were even wealthy men ready to shower Mai with affection. Despite all this, Mai never changed. She remained as friendly and cheerful as before. Han found herself at an impasse and confided everything to Deep, her best friend since high school. Deep listened, seething for her friend. She frowned and said, "Good heavens, why don't you teach her a lesson, Han? You're not the friend I used to know. When did you become so weak?" I don't know what to do next. Suddenly I'm scared. Everything I had before is gone. I'm losing my mind." Deep shook her head, sweeping her gaze across the cafe where they sat. Once she was sure no one was paying attention, she continued, "You're so foolish. Why endure such a person? Did she leave you any room to breathe? Initially, I was a little intrigued by her appearance, but now it's different. Hearing your story, I feel bad for you. What can I do now? She and I have nothing to do with each other, and she got famous so fast, I couldn't have anticipated any of this. Now I just regret it. Back when they invited me to that cursed Love Life film, I shouldn't have refused. If I hadn't, she wouldn't have this opportunity now." Deep continued to shake her head. She patted her friend's shoulder. "My goodness, are you even thinking straight, Han? You're giving up already? Where's your pride? There are plenty of ways to bring her down. And I just heard the news that Love Life is going to be remade into a theatrical release. Mai is definitely going to be the female lead this time. Haven't you thought about how much more terrifying it'll be then, dozens of times worse than now?" "Oh my God, do you have any way to help me?" Before going further, Deep hesitated again, looking around. A few people were sitting nearby. She leaned close to Han's ear and whispered, "Do you believe in black magic, in charms?" At this, Han's eyes widened. "What are you saying, Deep? Are you serious? I'm not joking. It's real. You're in the entertainment industry, don't you know about these things?" Seeing her friend's utterly bewildered face, Deep explained further. Usually, singers and actors put a lot of faith in spiritual matters. Some use it to pray for peace or good fortune. Others use its power to eliminate rivals. You seem still too naive. Hearing this, Han perked up. That's right, I remember now. I used to hear the older students talk about it, but I thought it was just a psychological trick, didn't really believe it. Deep chuckled and said, You're too weak. Why look so far? Last year, I was having problems with my boyfriend because his wife found out about our affair. I got beaten several times, but luckily, I got a charm and secretly put it in his wife's grave. And now she's gone crazy, they're divorced, and soon will get married. Oh my God, it's that effective, Han exclaimed immediately. Of course, but with I think you just need to make her sick, ruin her career. Something too strong would be overkill. Han shook her head, disagreeing with her friend's humanity. The resentment and anger Mai had caused her felt like something terrible had been done. This was like a war, one winner, one loser. That very afternoon, Deep took her friend to the fortune teller's house, the same one who had helped her before. The house was large and luxurious. Everything was made of wood and imitation jade inlaid in the walls. The fortune teller was only in her early 40s, her face unremarkable. However, looking into her eyes, Han could feel a chilling sharpness. What do you two want here? The fortune teller asked curtly, her voice deep and hoarse like an old man's, completely at odds with her appearance. Deep clasped her hands respectfully and said, Dear Madam, I asked for your help once before, and it was incredibly effective. I've come first with a small gift as a token of my gratitude. After that, my friend here has something she needs your help with. The woman nodded, accepting the gift bag with an envelope tucked inside from Deep with one hand, while the other gestured towards a nearby table and chairs. Come sit here, both of you. State your business quickly to save time. Deep pulled Han along. After they settled down, Han spoke up. Yes, hello, madam. I'd like to ask for a charm to hex someone. Hex whom? Yes, it's my rival. I want her to suffer, not necessarily die. The fortune teller's voice remained calm and steady, as if this was nothing new to her. Han thought for a moment, then said, First, please give me a charm to make her ill. If it works and I need something stronger, I'll come back to you. The fortune teller nodded and replied, All right, but let me tell you, matters related to the spiritual world are not simple, and they are very costly. If you want to reconsider, you can. Han interrupted, It's fine. Money is not an issue for me. As long as there's a result, I will never forget your help, please rest assured. The fortune teller's demeanor quickly changed, becoming a little more welcoming and cheerful towards Han. After Han confided more about herself and Mai, the fortune teller nodded, instructing, If everything you say is true, it can be done. But to complete the hex, you must prepare the following: the other person's date of birth, and most importantly, a lock of their hair. You must get these within the next 6 weeks. Because that day will be a lunar eclipse, the yin energy will be very strong, and the charm will work faster and more precisely then. Han quickly calculated and said, That means there are only 2 days left. Returning from the fortune teller's house, Han thought deeply. She had never spoken politely to Mai before. Now, she not only had to strike up a conversation, but also needed to obtain a lock of Mai's hair. This was an almost impossible task for Han, but having committed, she had to follow through. She spent the entire night meticulously planning. The next morning, as usual, Mai was the first to arrive at class to practice the script for her test. Han also arrived earlier than usual. She walked up to Mai, trying her best to force a fake smile. You're early, Mai. What are you doing? Hearing the question, Mai jumped, even more surprised because it was Han who was asking. But with her friendly nature, Mai quickly replied, Oh, I'm just practicing a bit of the script. Han, it's been a long time since I saw you come to school this early. Han feigned a smile and said, Oh, it's nothing. I just had some errands to finish early, so I stopped by on my way to school. Ah, I have something to ask you, but I don't know what it is. Mai frowned in confusion and continued, Just ask, I don't mind. Han scratched her head and said, It's nothing important. I just heard you might be participating in a feature film soon. Oh, right, that Love Life film. The director plans to adapt it from a short film to a theatrical release. He offered me the role, but I'm still thinking about whether to accept it. Oh my God, you have to accept it. That's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Besides, if you accept, maybe I can ask you about something. What is it, Han? Well, if you act in it, could you ask the director to give me a supporting role to gain experience? I've only done commercials until now. Mai nodded immediately, smiling brightly. Oh my goodness, I thought it was something serious. Don't worry about it, I'm just afraid you won't like it. I heard the director say this film will expand to include many characters. Oh, that's even better, thank you, Mai. No problem. What do you mean, no problem? Oh, I have to go get my hair done later. Let me take you, Mai. Your hair isn't well taken care of at all. It looks so dry and messy. Mai hesitated slightly at this unexpected kindness from Han, which she wasn't used to. Han didn't give her time to hesitate further. She continued, Come on, just a little trim. After class, I'll take you. If you don't go, you don't consider me a friend. I'm going to the cafeteria for something now. You stay and study the script, okay? As Han spoke, she stood up, pushed the door open, and walked out. After a few more steps, she shivered and sighed. That was disgusting. I can't believe I could say those things, but it's okay. To complete the plan, I have to try everything. When school ended, the moment Han had been waiting for arrived. She rode Mai on the back of her scooter to a hair salon. Inside, Mai was somewhat surprised by its size and luxury. A dozen employees stood in line to greet Han. Indeed, Mai had never been able to afford going to such places. Even if she could, she probably wouldn't, fearing the expense. Looking around, Mai was a little surprised that there were no other customers besides her and Han. Mai pulled her friend's hand and asked, Hey, why is it so empty? Well, who gets their hair done at this time? Plus, few people can afford to come here. Don't worry, the stylists here are the best in the city. Come on, let's hurry up. The sooner we finish, the sooner we can go home. I'm starting to get hungry. Mai didn't suspect anything from Han's explanation. Han walked, murmuring to herself, No customers until my plan is done, because I've booked the whole place for this time. Mai's new hairstyle was indeed beautiful. However, what made Han happiest was the leftover hair on the floor. She carefully instructed the staff to collect all the hair and package it neatly for her to pick up later. The plan was now almost complete. Mai's date of birth was easy to obtain, as every student's information was in the class register. 7 p.m. on Friday. This meant there was only a short time left before the fortune teller would perform the hex. Everything she had instructed was prepared. Deep stood beside Han, continuously recounting stories of the spell's effectiveness. Exactly 30 minutes later, the sky began to darken, the moon slowly entering the lunar eclipse. Down on the ground, the fortune teller lit incense, placed it in the censer, and muttered incantations. Han didn't understand what the woman was chanting, but seeing Deep clasp her hands and pray, she followed suit. After chanting for a while, the fortune teller stopped, pulled a human effigy made of rope from her pocket. She wrapped Mai's hair around the effigy. First, she poured some foul-smelling red mixture over it. When the moon returned to its normal brightness, the fortune teller handed the effigy back to Han, instructing her, Take this home and keep it in a clean, dry place. The person you despise will show results within 10 days. Although Han couldn't be sure if the fortune teller's words were true, she desperately hoped everything would turn out well. Back home, she placed the effigy in her wardrobe. Han was so careful that she even cleaned it out and put several anti-moth sachets inside. Whether it was fate helping Han's plan or not, just 2 days later, Mai suddenly clutched her stomach in class, groaning in pain. The pain was so intense it brought her to tears. Everyone, including Han, rushed Mai to the hospital. It was strange, no one could diagnose what was wrong with Mai. Her pain simply grew worse and worse. Sometimes it was in her chest, sometimes her flank, other times her lower abdomen. They had to inject her with high-dose painkillers and sedatives for her to finally drift into unconsciousness. Witnessing this, Han was the happiest and most satisfied person. She had initially suspected the hex had worked, and now it was confirmed. Returning from the hospital, Han joyfully collapsed onto her bed. She called Deep to share the good news. Guess what? What? Mai's really been cursed with illness. I just got back from the hospital and no one can figure out what's wrong with her. My God, that fast. You're lucky this time, Han. Do you believe me now? I do, but leaving it like this doesn't seem very serious. You really are cruel, Han. Just wait. Charms, no matter how strong, need time to take effect, and then she'll suffer, you'll see. But remember to properly thank the fortune teller. It'll be easier to ask for her help again later. Oh, I know. All right, time to sleep. I'm too happy. With that, Han hung up. She relaxed her body. It had been so long since she'd felt such pure joy. Han quickly drifted into a deep sleep. The next morning, upon arriving at school, the first thing Han paid attention to was information about Mai. The teacher who was on duty at the hospital last night said Mai's condition was unchanged, not getting any better. Her family had also come up from their hometown to care for their daughter. Han was delighted to hear this. She thought to herself, if this continues, Mai will die soon from this pain. To see Mai's condition with her own eyes, Han didn't hesitate. She rushed to the hospital under the pretense of visiting her friend. Upon entering, the room reeked of disinfectant. The unpleasant smell hit Han's nose, making her grimace. Mai lay on the bed, breathing shallowly, her eyes closed. Next to her was a woman dressed in simple, countrified clothes. Han guessed this was Mai's mother. She cleared her throat to get the woman's attention, and it worked. The woman started, looked at Han, and frowned. Hello, Miss, may I help you? Yes, I'm Mai's classmate. How is she, Auntie? The woman sighed heavily. I don't know. She'll probably have to stay here for a while. No one knows what's wrong with her. Oh my God, it's that serious, Auntie. I just saw her normal. Life really is unpredictable. After asking a few more questions, Han found an excuse to leave immediately. In truth, she had no intention of visiting her enemy. She just wanted to check if Mai still had a chance to live. Mai's condition worsened day by day, becoming almost critical. Not only did she have stomach pain, but she also grew pale and gaunt, her eyes vacant and dull, as if all life had drained from within her. In just 4 or 5 short days, Mai had lost a tragic amount of weight. Even Han herself was startled when she saw her. She hadn't expected the charm to be so terrifyingly effective. Han discreetly slipped into the restroom and called Deep. Hello, Deep. Mai is very weak now. That fast? It's only been a few days, right? Yeah, I don't think she has long to live. Maybe we should stop. I think this is enough. Deep's voice on the other end of the line sharpened. This girl, it's not complete until she dies. Do you want her to get better and then come back to haunt you? No buts. Being kind to an enemy is suicide, do you understand? Han sighed reluctantly. Oh, I know. She hung up and went to her locker to retrieve the effigy. If before Han had held a dozen such dolls, she still couldn't have imagined its terrifying power, or more accurately, the spiritual world's power. A little while later, Han put the effigy back in the wooden box. She climbed into bed and slept until morning. Time passed quickly, and Mai's illness grew more severe. She had to drop out of school and abandon all her pending plans to return to her hometown for treatment. The fame in the entertainment industry was fickle. Now, in her pitiful state, there was no glamour left, and hardly anyone remembered Mai's name. The director and sponsors withdrew all contact and support. The next morning, after the last class, the teacher calmly addressed the class. Students, I have some sad news to announce. Everyone murmured and whispered. Everyone was curious, including Han. Without making them wait long, the teacher continued. Your classmate, Mai, after a period of battling her illness, has passed away. She took her last breath in her hometown about half an hour ago. I received the information and wanted to tell you immediately, but I had to wait until class was over. Please make arrangements to attend her funeral if you can. The murmuring grew louder. More than anyone, Han wasn't entirely surprised by Mai's death. However, she had thought this news would make her jump for joy or at least smile. But no, Han felt a pang of sadness. This feeling didn't last long, though. Han comforted herself. Mai, I didn't want things to turn out this way, but it's also your fault. It's all your fault. Even more chillingly, Han attended Mai's funeral to offer her condolences. No one could have imagined that the indirect cause of the young girl's death was standing there, holding incense to light for her. After Mai's funeral was over, Han returned to the city. As soon as she boarded the bus, good news began to find her. Because of Mai's passing, the film Love Life was postponed. They were forced to find another actress to replace her. A casting call would be held in conjunction with Mai's final exam period in about 2 months. There, the director would select his new leading lady based on the film students' performances. Receiving this news felt like a guaranteed spot for Han. In her class, Mai was the only one she worried about. Now that Mai was gone, no one would have the strength to stop Han. Not only that, nearly a dozen of Mai's advertising contracts were also redirected to Han. She was so overjoyed she literally laughed uncontrollably in the car. Back home, Han shared the good news with her parents. Mrs. Zhuang, her mother, looked at her daughter with happy and proud eyes. For the first time, she truly appreciated her daughter's success. She immediately organized a party at home, inviting all their friends and colleagues to celebrate. The lively atmosphere inadvertently made Han forget about the effigy inside her wardrobe. But even if she remembered it now, what good would it do? Her wish had been fulfilled. The party lasted until past 10 p.m. Mr. Kwang, Han's father, was still engrossed in a fierce chess match with his friends. Mrs. Zhuang was cleaning up the dinner table, taking things to the kitchen. Han, having nothing else to do, went upstairs to play with the children people had brought along. But then something Han least expected happened. As she stepped into her room, her eyes widened in horror. Before her, she saw 3 or 4 kids lying on her bed, playing with the effigy from her wardrobe as if it were a doll. The charms pasted on it, and even Mai's hair, were pulled off and scattered on the floor. "Oh my God, what are you doing?" Han shrieked. The children, of course, didn't understand what they had done. Frightened by her outburst, they quickly scattered. Han lunged, grabbing the effigy. She tried to reattach the charms and hair. Luckily, it wasn't damaged. After that, Han put it back in its place, intending to take it to the fortune teller with Deep to resolve the issue when she had time. She had been out and about all day, so sleepiness quickly overcame her. Han didn't think much more. She just let herself fall onto the bed, and slowly her eyes blurred, sinking into darkness. A soft chuckle startled Han awake. She frowned, trying to hear if anyone was outside. The knocking on the door came again, this time clearer than before. Han tried to get up and walk to the door, but she realized her body had no strength whatsoever. Finally, she lay still and asked, "Who is it, Mom?" She thought it was Mrs. Zhuang outside, but strangely, the knocking continued incessantly, and no one answered Han's question. She spoke louder, "Mom, come in, the door's unlocked." Perhaps the person outside heard her, because as soon as she finished speaking, the doorknob turned. Although the bedside lamp was on, it didn't seem bright enough for Han to recognize who it was. The door opened wider, and a shadow slowly appeared. This figure was completely unfamiliar to Han. There was no one in her house who was both tall and thin like that. Han tried to call out again, but her throat felt as if someone was strangling it. Han couldn't utter a specific word, only a choked gurgle. The shadowy figure stepped closer. Han believed that now she could see who had entered the room. But no, the bedside lamp suddenly flickered and went out. "What is this?" Han muttered to herself, utterly panicked, unable to comprehend what was happening. And the terrifying events had only just begun. Han began to feel someone touching her, and who else could it be but that shadowy figure? A cold, icy hand, as if it had just been soaked in ice water, pressed against her thigh, making Han gasp and jump. The thought that her husband had suddenly broken into the house and was committing an indecent act on her terrified Han. She wanted to spring up, crawl away, and scream at that moment, but how could she scream when her entire body had no strength left? The cold hand didn't stop there. It glided over Han's smooth, pale skin as if caressing her. "That's right. This is indeed a pervert breaking into someone else's house. Why me? Oh my God, what will he do to me? I'm going to die." The more Han thought, the more terrified she became, to the point where goosebumps rose in waves. And it wasn't just that hand. She felt an entire body pressing down on her. Her body began to ache, and a dizzying sleep once again overtook Han, making her unable to resist. She murmured a few pleas, "No, no," then drifted off. The next morning, before the sun was fully up, Han jolted awake, immediately remembering what happened last night. She was even more terrified because her clothes were all removed. "What happened?" Han burst into tears. Her sobbing immediately woke Mrs. Zhuang. She rushed to her daughter's side. Mrs. Zhuang was horrified to see her daughter's naked body. "Han, what did you do? What if your father had seen you like this?" Quickly, put your clothes back on and tell me what happened. Mom, I think a thief broke in. At this, Mrs. Zhuang gasped. She quickly ran out, telling her husband to search every corner for a thief, but Mr. Kwong searched everywhere and found nothing. Mrs. Zhuang sat beside Han, speaking gently. You must have been dreaming, darling. There's no one. Our house is secure. No one could break in. No, Mom, I couldn't have dreamed it. It was still happening in our house. Please, Mom, check again. Mr. Kwong wasn't present at the moment, but he pulled out his phone and accessed the house cameras for his daughter to see. Indeed, no one had broken into their house. The door to Han's room hadn't even been approached by anyone. Han looked dazed. Was I dreaming? That's right, just try to get some sleep and rest. Don't you have an advertising shoot tomorrow? Han said nothing, just nodded. After her parents left the room, she began to rethink everything. Clearly, the sensation had been so real that Han could remember how cold her skin felt. After agonizing for a while, dawn broke. Remembering her work, despite being tired, Han forced herself out of bed to wash up. The advertising set that morning was different from Han's previous shoots, both in scale and product. The director on set looked delighted to see Han. He quickly said, "My goodness, you're right on time. I love people like that. Come in, let's review the script one more time." Han nodded and followed him. After quickly agreeing on everything, the director didn't forget to ask, I know you two were classmates. That's why I prioritized you for this replacement commercial. If her soul can see this, she must be at peace." His completely normal words startled Han. Although she said nothing, her bewilderment was clear on her face. She thought these were the only misfortunes that morning. But no, as soon as they started filming, all the walkie-talkies on the director's monitor lost signal. Not only that, all the lights in the room went out. The director panicked. "My is worth tens of millions an hour. If this keeps happening, we're ruined. Everyone, quickly get the generator. We'll shoot using backup power." Sounds of affirmation echoed. Han shook her head in frustration and sat down, silently rehearsing the lines she was about to shoot. Finally, the lights came back on, to everyone's relief and cheer. A scream pierced the air, startling everyone. All eyes turned to the source of the sound. It was a cleaning lady, tidying up before the shoot, and what terrified her was a red stain stretching across the floor. The red stain looked like blood, and it was very fresh. "What is this?" The director walked over to inspect it, muttering, "It's just paint, it's nothing. Everyone, clean it up quickly and we'll continue." Han breathed a sigh of relief at his words. However, why there was a red paint stain and who spilled it remained unknown, making her a little uneasy. Throughout the shoot, Han felt a nagging sense of unease. Finally, the shoot ended at 10 p.m. It goes without saying that it had drained everyone's energy, and Han was no exception, compounded by the fatigue from lack of sleep the previous night. All she wanted now was to get home quickly and collapse into bed. Leaving the set, Han hailed a taxi on the street to get home faster. The driver seemed friendly and cheerful when he learned she was an aspiring actress. Already tired, Han only hummed in response. The car drove for a while, and Han was dozing off when the driver suddenly slammed on the brakes, startling her. "What's going on? What kind of driving is this?" Han asked, annoyed. The driver pointed ahead and said, "It was completely normal, but that girl suddenly ran out in front of the car. Luckily, I braked in time, otherwise, there would have been an accident." Han frowned, looking in the direction he pointed. Indeed, a girl was walking ahead. She thought it would be nothing, but Han was startled again because the figure was so familiar. It looked very much like Mai, her deceased classmate. However, Han immediately dismissed the thought. Mai was dead, and how could a dead person be standing here? The driver continued driving, and the figure quickly disappeared around the corner. Back home, Han collapsed onto her bed, fulfilling her body's desire. She didn't even bother to change or shower. Han just fell asleep. The knocking on the door came again. Han flinched, grumbling, "Mom," but just like last night, no one answered. Fear returned. Han remembered what happened before and whispered, "What is this? Why is it happening again?" Before she could recover, the doorknob began to turn. Han became even more terrified as she saw the same tall, thin black shadow enter. The bedroom light went out. "Help!" Han tried to scream, but her efforts produced no sound. Her throat was constricted, she could only gasp faintly. What is this? Han thought to herself. While she was still wondering what to do, the cold breath began to touch her skin. At this point, everything became much clearer. Han knew the hand was headed for her chest. Not only that, the other hand fumbled towards her lower body. A high-pitched, eerie laugh erupted. It sounded deep, as if from the underworld. Whatever it was, the shadow continued its assault on Han. Calling it a dream was impossible because it felt too real. So real that Han knew exactly where the shadow was, what it was doing to her body. She felt no pleasure, only agonizing pain and a chilling coldness throughout her body. Tears streamed down her face. Han's vision gradually blurred, and she immediately fainted. The next morning, Han awoke, immediately rushing out of bed, intending to check the house cameras. But as soon as her feet touched the ground, she collapsed. Han's body was truly devoid of all strength. Moreover, her lower body felt frighteningly sore. Han braced herself on the floor, repeatedly pounding and calling, "Mom, Mom." Unfortunately for Han, both her parents had left for work early. After calling for a long time and getting no answer, Han tiredly slumped onto the floor. If she could have seen her lower body at that moment, the horror would not have stopped there. Her entire thigh was soaked in blood, now dry and discolored, looking truly terrifying. Han fainted a second time. Near noon, Mrs. Zhuang returned home with her husband. Seeing the house still quiet, she initially hesitated to go inside, but then she saw the leftover breakfast in the kitchen and her daughter's shoes on the rack. She hurried upstairs to Han's room. As she went, she called out, "Han, are you up there?" And then, when her daughter's door opened, she screamed in horror, covering her mouth. "Oh my God, Han, what happened to you?" Mr. Kwong heard his wife's frantic cry and quickly appeared. He was no different from his wife. He was so terrified he couldn't form a coherent sentence. Mrs. Zhuang pointed down at her daughter's bloodied clothes, her voice trembling. "Husband, look, call an ambulance, quickly." Mr. Kwong yelled and rushed to his daughter. After more than 3 grueling hours, the emergency room door finally opened. If not for the nurses holding them back, Mr. and Mrs. Kwong would have rushed in immediately. He called out, "Doctor, how is she?" A doctor stepped out and raised a hand. "Please calm down. You're not the only patient here. There are dozens, hundreds of other patients who need quiet." "Doctor, how is our daughter? Can you please tell us?" The doctor nodded, led the two to a corner of the room, and spoke slowly. "Currently, her life is not in danger, you can rest assured. But why did you let her condition get to this point?" Mr. and Mrs. Kwong's faces went blank. Mrs. Zhuang interjected, "What do you mean, doctor? Our daughter doesn't have a husband, she's still young." "So it was a rape. What are you saying, doctor? Please explain clearly why you're saying rape. Nothing happened to her." The doctor removed his glasses and said softly, "The cause of your daughter's coma is severe blood loss, but the important thing is that your daughter's reproductive organs have been seriously injured. Are you aware of this?" Of course, both of them couldn't fathom it. Mr. Kwong shook his head, asking back, "That's impossible. Doctor, please check again for any errors. She was inside the house who could have done such a thing. While waiting, I even reviewed the security cameras at home, and no one entered her room. So I really don't know. It's just that during the examination, I found severe injuries. You can wait for her to wake up and ask her yourself." "Oh, thank you, doctor," Mr. Kwong said, his eyes filled with utter confusion. Mrs. Zhuang wasn't much better than him. That night, Han woke up, looking utterly lifeless. Seeing her parents, Han burst into tears. Mom, they touched me. I was violated." This painful confession further terrified Mr. and Mrs. Zhuang. This was also the very thing they wanted to ask her. Now, Han's words were nothing short of an admission that it had indeed happened. Mrs. Zhuang cried out, clutching her daughter's hand tightly. "Tell me who it was. Who was it?" "I don't know." "How can you not know? Don't bring shame upon your parents." Having no other choice, Han began to recount everything to them. The more they heard, the more horrified they became. Mrs. Zhuang clasped her hands, praying under her breath, "Namo Amitabha Buddha. Could it be a spirit?" Hearing his wife, Mr. Kwong tried to interject, as he didn't believe in ghosts. But before he could speak, Han nodded, agreeing with her mother. Mrs. Zhuang asked, "My dear, you really didn't see its face?" "Yes, I didn't see anything, but it did that to me. It hurt so much." Did you get involved with anything spiritual recently? Did you go to any pagodas or temples? At this, Han's mind recalled the time she had a charm placed on Mai. After a long pause, she finally confessed this to Mrs. Zhuang alone. Mrs. Zhuang's eyes widened in horror. How could she believe her daughter had such an evil heart? She immediately asked, "So, where is that effigy now? In your wardrobe? Do you remember the fortune teller's address?" "I remember." Immediately, Mrs. Zhuang rushed back home, retrieved the effigy, and went to find the fortune teller. After listening to her story, the fortune teller nodded, confirming, "Yes, I did perform a spell for your daughter, but I also warned her to keep it carefully. If the effigy is damaged and the spirit inside escapes and torments her, I cannot be held responsible." Mrs. Zhuang burst into tears. "I don't need you to be responsible. They say, a foolish child, a mother's burden. Can't you take pity on her? I'll pay whatever it costs. Just please, stop my daughter from being tormented, I beg you." "You and your daughter are truly alike. All right then. Actually, I can perform a ritual to seal it back, but I can't guarantee success." Immediately, the fortune teller set up an altar and performed a frantic ritual for a long time. Mrs. Zhuang didn't understand any of it, but because she was a little superstitious, she showed great faith. Afterwards, the fortune teller burned the effigy. At that moment, distinct screams and guttural growls could be clearly heard echoing. "It's done. Now you can go back to your daughter, but she must rest and recuperate a lot to get well. Her negative thoughts are still too many, making it easy for evil spirits to run rampant." Mrs. Zhuang thanked her profusely and rushed back. She didn't know if it was truly thanks to the fortune teller's powerful magic, but from that day on, Han never dreamt of the shadow appearing again. Her health rapidly improved. However, she also had to face her parents. Both of them, also in the arts, wanted their daughter to stop at nothing to achieve her goals. Mr. Kwang even threatened to call the police. Mrs. Zhuang spoke more gently. Actually, Han didn't intentionally harm anyone. She was just influenced by others. Besides, what happened recently is like she's already paid the price. Do you want your daughter to die before you're satisfied? Annoyed, Mr. Kwang said nothing more, turning and walking straight upstairs. Mrs. Zhuang then asked Han, "So, what are you going to do now? Most of your recent advertising gigs were canceled, you know." Han shook her head. "Actually, I don't need those gigs. My goal is to get the highest score in the competition. If I do, I'll become the lead actress in a theatrical film." Mrs. Zhuang nodded. "It's good to have goals and strive for them, but I hope you'll learn to control yourself and not do anything wrong again. Do you understand?" "I understand," Han nodded, then returned to her room. Upon entering, she lay down on the bed. The feeling of safety had returned, filling her familiar bedroom. But Han didn't know that the black shadow wasn't everything. Outside, in front of her house, a figure in a white dress, with long, flowing hair almost touching the ground, stood. The figure stared inside with eyes full of hatred, then slowly vanished like a gust of wind. Only one day remained until the important moment. Han was very excited. Although the recent troubles had left her with little time for her performance, she was somewhat sure and confident that she would win. Mrs. Zhuang also woke up early to cook her daughter a delicious bowl of sweet bean soup. Although a little superstitious, she believed that eating beans would help her daughter's competition go smoothly. After eating, Han quickly headed to school, not forgetting to say, "I might stay there, practice late, and compete early in the morning. Coming home would be too rushed." "I know, honey. Good luck with your exam." Han left the house filled with excitement. She didn't take a taxi as usual, but rode her scooter. Unfortunately, after only 3 or 4 minutes, a heavy rain suddenly poured down. Han began to regret her decision. She hadn't brought a raincoat, so her only option was to take shelter under the eaves of a house by the roadside. The rain grew heavier and heavier. As she was looking around at the street, Han's eyes stopped at the opposite corner. Through the white blur of rain, Han saw a figure, a very familiar figure. Mai, she stammered, calling out the name. Indeed, the figure standing on the opposite sidewalk was Mai, the girl who had tragically died from Han's charm. Mai's appearance was terrifying. Her white clothes were stained with fresh blood, mixing with the rainwater to form a lurid red puddle on the ground. Mai fixed her cold gaze on Han. Han was so scared she nearly died. It didn't stop there. Mai's ghost stepped across the street, heading straight for Han. Terrified, Han wished she was dreaming at this moment. The ghostly figure of Mai had reached the middle of the road. She was like a wisp of smoke, cars passed right through her. Han couldn't stand still and endure it. She shrieked and dashed out into the street, oblivious to the increasingly heavy rain. Han ran as if her life depended on it. The faster she ran, the more she heard someone calling her name from behind. The more her name was called, the more Han ran like mad. Finally, she reached the school. The rain and the calling stopped. Frightened, Han didn't say a word, just burst into the room and huddled in a corner. Perhaps the crowd and the noisy sounds of those rehearsing for tomorrow's performance somewhat lessened her fear. At night, while everyone was chatting in the room, Han quietly stepped outside to get some fresh air. Because she was so scared, she hadn't dared to leave the crowded room since morning. Now her stomach was rumbling with hunger. Han rubbed her belly and thought. From here to the cafeteria, she had to pass at least 5 rows of rooms, and it was late, so surely no one would be studying. More precisely, everyone present was in their rooms. Asking for food at this hour might make her a laughingstock. The more she thought, the more the hunger gnawed at Han. If she didn't eat now, she wouldn't be able to sleep. This would affect tomorrow's exam. She hadn't been in the mood to study since morning. Finally, Han had to make a decision, brave her fear and go to the cafeteria to buy food. She returned to the room with her phone. Luckily, the school's electricity system was lit up almost everywhere, so Han felt less scared. She walked straight ahead. The cafeteria was open 24/7, so it wasn't hard for Han to fill her empty stomach. After eating, she hurried back to the practice room, intending to just crash on a table and sleep. It was almost midnight. Han bought another sweet bun and cautiously ran back to the practice room. She thought everything would be as smooth as when she left, but no. As soon as she entered the hallway, the lights suddenly went out. The entire path ahead was pitch black. Han, needless to say, was utterly regretful at this moment. She stood hesitating for a while longer, but the lights didn't come back on. It must be broken. But she couldn't stay here either. After agonizing for a long time, Han took a deep breath and ran for her life. Grabbing the flashlight on her phone, she ran headlong. She felt like if anyone was in her way, she would knock them over. And her actions were indeed violent. Moving too fast, coupled with the lack of light, she only realized she had bumped into someone. The collision sent Han tumbling to the ground. Her phone fared no better, it flew into a distant corner. Han painfully clutched her leg, whimpering, about to curse the person who had blocked her path when she suddenly realized. There was no one around. The flashlight, though not strong, was enough for Han to know if someone was there or not. So what had she just collided with? Before she could fully recover from the shock, a high-pitched, terrifying laugh echoed in Han's ears. Her heart leaped. Han backed against the wall and called out, "Who's there?" Of course, she received no response. At that moment, the hallway lights came back on. Relieved, Han no longer had the presence of mind to find out who that person was. She scrambled to pick up her phone and ran for her life. Finally, Han made it back to her room, almost in tears. The people inside the room found her terrified face amusing. However, they didn't want to get involved with someone like Han, so they didn't ask anything. Han returned to her corner, put her phone back in her pocket, and the bun she bought was probably lost somewhere on her run. Han bewilderedly replayed her day. It was truly too terrifying. From seeing Mai in the rain to the shadow of the mysterious figure in the hallway, could it be Mai's ghost present to take revenge? And if so, what would she do? Should she ask the fortune teller again? No, definitely not. After pondering for a while, Han unknowingly fell asleep. Her sleep lasted until almost dawn, without any nightmares or waking up in the middle of the night. One could say this was one of her best sleeps during the turbulent period. It was just past 6 a.m., still quite early, but other students were already up, changing into their costumes. The bustling and noisy atmosphere of everyone truly had an effect. Han's spirits lifted considerably. She called her mother, Mrs. Zhuang, to tell her she was about to compete. Now, she carefully went to change her clothes. At exactly 8 o'clock, the bell rang from the hall, signaling that the important moment had arrived. The auditorium was filled with thousands of people. Besides the younger students who came to learn from experience, there were also journalists from famous newspapers. One could say that anyone appearing today would have a very high chance of advancing their career. In order, the singing and dancing performances came first, followed by the acting competition. Han used the remaining time to review her lines to be sure. More than ever, she knew that today would be her day, the day Han would shine. No one remembered Mai's name anymore because they knew that even if Mai were alive, she would never defeat Han. More than an hour later, Han's competition performance finally arrived. Standing backstage, hearing her name called, she quickly stepped out. Her confident strides greatly pleased the judges below. Not to mention, the famous director kept nodding his head vigorously. Halfway through the performance, Han executed it smoothly and flawlessly. Next was the supporting role performed by a friend. She played Han's enemy. Suddenly, the stage lights went out. The audience below murmured in confusion, but this was part of Han's script. She prepared herself mentally for the fear, exactly as written in the script. The lights came back on. A figure stood on stage, about 5 steps from Han. But Han's eyes suddenly stopped because she realized this was not her fellow performer. This figure, this face, was Mai's. More accurately, Mai was standing there looking at her. Han was so scared she couldn't scream, her face was drained of all color. The audience below thought Han was just acting and applauded loudly. And of course, they couldn't see Mai, only Han could. Her horror intensified as Han saw Mai's abdomen seeming to burst open. Blood and internal organs dangled grotesquely. It was too horrifying. Han shrieked. This scream was nothing short of a climax. The audience watched in silence, following every expression on her face. Mai curved her lips into a smile so terrifying that Han wished she could die right now. "No, no, this can't be," Han cried hysterically, shaking her head and waving her hands. As Mai's shadow moved closer, Han couldn't stand there anymore. She fled straight backstage. At this point, the audience, the judges, and even the famous director all stood up, applauding thunderously. Han ran for her life from backstage to the back exit. Every time she looked back, she saw Mai getting closer behind her. Screaming again, she ran straight outside, quickly jumped into a taxi, and yelled, "Go fast, quickly." The driver, though not understanding what was happening, had no choice but to drive off. About 10 minutes later, Han no longer saw Mai's shadow chasing her. She breathed a tired, gasping sigh of relief and whispered to the driver in front, "Driver, please, please take me to Phan Van Street, number 19, Than Nien Street." Before she could finish, a soft voice echoed, "Aren't you going back to school, darling? Your performance isn't finished yet." As soon as the voice ended, Han's heart jumped because she recognized it as Mai's voice. If so, then the driver was. The driver's head slowly turned to reveal Mai, still with that haunting smile. Mai's eyes were bloodshot, as if blood was about to pour out. Han screamed loudly, "Oh my God, spare me, I know I was wrong." Mai's chilling laugh grew clearer, and Han could even smell the faint metallic scent of blood. Unable to bear this horror, Han instinctively opened the car door and threw herself out. The car was moving at a high speed, and her body slid, skidding across the road. She couldn't feel the pain, or rather, she couldn't feel her body anymore. Her eyes stared ahead blankly, fixed. It didn't stop there. Mai appeared again. Her entire body was now covered in blood. Mai slowly advanced towards Han, who lay sprawled on the ground. She extended her hand, smiling, and said, "Han, come with me." Those were the last words Han heard. Her vision began to darken, now swallowed by the deepest night.